gone.
Yeah.
Yeah, no, I think CJ is good for, shooting jumpers, but his defense is falling off. I would have liked to see Portland keep somebody like the smart thing to do for them was to keep somebody like Gary Trent and move him to the shooting guard position.
It's all Norman Powell, but
right.
Yeah.
Norman Powell is more of a slasher, small forward, guard, bigger player, people that are bigger than him. Great catch and shoot player as well. But yeah, you need two catch and shoot guys around Dame rather than have like what's it called? Like have too many ball handlers. You know what I'm saying? Ball stoppers.
I get that.
Yeah.
I feel it.
Yeah, I mean it kind of works with CJ, but like, yeah, his defense is just not there. He's letting Monte Morris because I can't have it.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, Marcus Morris had a game. He had a game.
Right.
He should not be having that type of game in the game 5.
He shouldn't. But I'm looking at this Washington series too, and it's crazy. I feel like Bradley Beal is the problem in Washington.
Damn.
Bradley Beal?
I think Bradley Beal is the problem right now in Washington. Because I'm looking at his decision making. He's choking right now in these games. He's playing terrible. He doesn't, his defense is terrible, always been terrible throughout his entire career. He's never been known for defense. He puts up a lot of points, but they're in losses. So there are a lot of like empty calories, empty stats. And then I'm looking at him in a real playoff situation. I mean, every time I see him in the playoffs, weren't they getting swept when it was him and John Wall?
Yeah.
It's gonna be 4-1. It's gonna be 4-1.
Yeah.
It's 3-1 right now.
But like that was probably like their best opportunity when it was him and John Wall. But I mean, John Wall was just hurt all the time, so that really like fucked him over.
It kind of hampered his development too.
Yeah.
Because it's like if you're playing in an environment where you're pretty much top dog, mostly because you don't have a point guard that's there for you, it becomes difficult. But now that he does, and he's here for the first time like in a while with a teammate that's going to be able to elevate his game as well in Russ, it's still the Philadelphia 76ers. I think, like you mentioned it, they're the most well-rounded team. So, like with playoffs, you're always going to essentially take a hit to the stats because there's going to be elite players guarding you every single game of every single series. It's a matter of whether you're able to like step up to the plate and do something big. And sometimes that takes time. Sometimes players are able to step up into that moment immediately. But for Bradley Beal, I guess he just wasn't comfortable in this environment to get his game going. Because I don't even know what was the stats. What was the stats for round 1 in terms of like points per game?
Check.
Yeah, I mean, I to be honest, I haven't even like watched that series at all.
Because we bring up stats, so I mean that's what I'm saying. A lot of times these guys can make empty stats at the end of blowouts or something like that, just to make their stat line look whatever. But if you're actually like watching a game and like eye test and like seeing the types of decisions these guys are making at particular points in the game, like I don't know, like I base more of my judgment or my criticism of these players on that, of just their decision making at key points in the game.
I mean, he had a solid game 1. He had like 33, 10, and 6. I mean, but like you said, we want to bring up stats, so I can't really judge him off. But like his field goal percentage wasn't bad. Like numbers wise, like he looked like he had a playoff performance. But like you're right, and like you got to judge him by decision making too in critical moments of the game. But I mean, there really weren't that many critical moments because they're getting blown out game 2 and 3. And then they just won game 4 or they had won game 4. And Russ and Beal probably went off to pull that off. Yeah, not even.
They didn't have. I think Philly had bad games.
Yeah, Philly just had a bad game.
The Wizards role players stepped up in that.
Yeah, you're
right.
So
it might be just speaking to a team game here because like Bradley Beal had, I think, his worst scoring game, or actually, I mean, maybe he went 9 for 23 in the game that they won.
Yeah, I see.
He went 9 for 23 in the game they won.
Mm-hmm.
That's what I'm saying. I mean, right now he's shooting a little under 50%, which is pretty good.
Yeah. This game he's going off, like high key going off in terms of points. He's putting up 32, 10 for 21.
Right, but he got 5 turnovers.
True, but it's definitely kind of like a make or break it type of game. You got to put it all on the line.
5 turnovers. And he only has 1 personal foul in the fourth quarter. In a make or break game, he only has 1 personal foul.
Yeah, maybe he just maybe he's
sliding his seat. Maybe he's sliding his seat. Who knows?
I'm playing it safe. Like, come on now. Like, it's a make or break game. Like, you gotta have at least 2 or 3 right now. If he's really trying hard.
You don't gotta be fouled. It don't gotta be fouled.
I mean, like, who's his matchup?
Straight up.
Who's his matchup?
Like, you gotta foul him. Huh?
His matchup, if it's the shooting guard, it should be. Man, is it gonna be Seth Curry?
It's Seth Curry's cooking right now.
Yo, he is.
Damn. So okay, yeah. So he should for sure like have some fouls. I thought maybe he was maybe guarding a guy who doesn't really touch the ball much, like just like a. But yeah, like yeah, he should have more fouls. I mean, yeah.
That's nuts. I don't know who's guarding who, but it says the shooting guard is.
Let me put it on. Let's
see
who he's guarding.
I feel like if they had if Russ had, he needs somebody like KD, but KD don't want to play with him.
I mean, they had it. Like that team was capable of winning a championship. Like they just KD and Russ just choked. Like that's all that happened.
It's not even choking. That's what I'm saying. It's not even choking. They just ran it to one of the best to ever do it. That's all it happened.
But I mean, they were up 3-1. Like that's that's a significant lead. Like you can't win one more game. Like,
I mean, if you're a Cavs fan, they'll let you know.
I mean, if you're Kevin Durant, like this is when we're arguing that Kevin Durant's like arguably the best player in the league. Like that conversation was floating around. You're telling me that, like you're telling me he can't like win one more game. Like,
it's a team game, bro.
I mean, but that's why I was so pissed when he came to the Warriors, because it was just like you literally could have beaten this team, and then you just chose to. Right, I won't get into that.
All right. Well, anyway, let's get into the podcast. So this is the Mostly Bullshitting podcast. You can start.
I'm Mike.
I'm Brandon.
And I'm Solomon.
So we'll get that one day, guys. But this is the podcast where 3 ex-college roommates basically go over the current events, topics of the day. We go over their nuances in great detail, and we really, go into great depth about how important they are and how complex they are. But honestly, we're mostly bullshit. So I don't know what do you guys want to talk about? We were just getting into the playoffs. But I don't know. Do you guys want to bring up topics, or you guys want to just keep going in on the playoffs and then just sort of just branch off from
there? So I mean, I had a topic if we want to talk about it, but it could be saved for another day.
No, let's go into topics because if I have a topic, Simon, do you have a topic?
I will make one up on the fly, bro. I got you.
We good. We players. All right, man. Mike, you can start it.
All right, yeah. So I just wanted to kind of maybe talk about home buying. Right now the market is extremely expensive, and it just seems like it's going to continue to get more expensive. So people are just kind of finding some pretty interesting ways to end up owning a home. One of the latest things I've seen is like these shipping container homes. I started watching a show about them, and they're actually like pretty dope. They're super
Tiny
cheap
house.
to, huh? Yeah.
The
Well, I mean,
tiny house. Yeah.
not even a
Yeah.
tiny house. Like they're building like huge, like pretty big houses out of like 10 shipping containers. And like it's and like the house is fully insulated, it's energy efficient, has everything that you would want in a home. And they're paying like a fraction of the price that they would if they bought like an already pre-built house.
Mm-hmm.
So like I was just kind of thinking, like, is that like the future of what our homes are going to start looking like? These shipping containers, as well as just like housing for the homeless, as Brandon was mentioning, those tiny homes. They built an encampment in Los Angeles recently. It's like an encampment of maybe like 200 units, something like that. And people can come and live there for free, and they have like a shower, laundry, like on site, running water, and some electricity. Like the homes are air conditioned. So like to be able to start affording homes, are we leading towards more of this tiny home efficient lifestyle?
Yes.
Yeah. And I like to, and there's no shade on it. It's just like, damn, like my dream would be to own like a big, like a pretty big house. But it just seems like it's just becoming more and more inaffordable to like purchase homes.
It just depends on where you want to live, Mike.
Yeah, but I mean, anywhere in California, like it's gonna be pretty expensive. I mean, obviously, like I live in Rancho Cucamonga. It's it's a lot more inland, so it's not that close to LA. But like generally, I'd still say it's pretty expensive just to stay here. And so in LA, like we're probably paying even double. So it's just, I guess it's, yeah, like you said, it's all about location. Even people moving to Texas, the home prices in Texas are raising now because people with California money are moving to Texas. So I mean, it's just the market just doesn't seem sustainable for everyone to be sheltered appropriately.
Yeah, if you want to buy a fat ass house in California, you're kind of fucked.
Why?
But I mean, just
not like
because
a
it's
fat
like,
ass house, but like a
but
Single family.
I'm just,
yeah.
You're kind of fucked, Mike. Like you got like, it's like those houses out here in like bad shape are like $2 million.
That's nuts.
So it's like, and that's really what they're going for right now, like all over the Bay Area. 2 million, 2.5 million, depending on how many rooms, how much square footage. Like this is a place that a lot of people want to live or at least visit. And not only that, but it's in proximity to where a lot of people are making a lot of money right now. So what's enabling gentrification is the tech industry. A lot of these tech companies bring people in from other places across the globe, and they offer them stock in the company for joining the company, right? For having, a significant role within the company as a contributor. And those stocks, because these tech companies are doing so well, are worth enough to cash out on and and put a down payment on a really, really, really expensive house. You know what I'm saying? So what's happening is like you're bringing these tech companies are bringing people in, they're offering them a lot of money, and like because like these stocks are being inflated because in these tech companies, they're afforded the opportunity, these tech industries, I guess specialists or managers or whatever, um, they're put in a position to gentrify these neighborhoods. So it's really like a systematic game that's going on to get people up out of here and bring an entirely new industry to make this a place of industry. I think that's really what's driving this.
Yeah,
my bad, I was just gonna add on to it. Like, it is kind of like the boom with industries kind of going on. This is Silicon Valley. There are companies that are building out left and right, and like there is an infrastructure already set up where there are talented employees. So it's not only like attractive for employees to come, it's also attractive for businesses to come and pick off like employees from these bigger companies because they already have the right mind to kind of provide valuable insight to companies that can potentially boom. I was also going to add like something on,
I was saying they're poaching. There's a lot of that going on, right?
Yeah, offering them more stock, more equity in a company, and then just more base salary to come from like the Facebooks, the Googles, the Microsofts, and then into like, you know, companies that are like at like C-level seating, saying like, hey, we'll give you all this, all these shares. It's a very attractive incentive to kind of get into that, like getting into a company where they're not necessarily all the way blown up or fully grown, and you get to be a part of like growing with the company as well as making money based off of that equity. But the one thing I kind of wanted to add to this is that the interest rates related to like mortgages and housing is pretty much at an all-time low, which is the reason why I believe that a lot of these housing prices have been inflated, because if you do have the money right now to purchase a home, you don't actually have to pay like interest right now. The interest rates are extremely low. There are a lot of people refinancing due to COVID. And I think the Fed noted that these rates will actually stay low until like the end of 2022 or mid 2023. And so what you see because of that is like with housing,
seller's market.
It is a seller's market. And I know personal experience, not from personal experience, but I've heard from first person and second person accounts where houses are being sold for $200,000 more than listing, $400,000 more than listing, $600,000 more than listing.
How about $1 million?
Like, yeah, that too. It's just depending on how the house is valued, what the location is. Because if you have the money to put down, like the 20% or the 3%, depending on what your preference is, like there is not going to be that interest rate. Like you get to lock in that interest rate forever.
The whole term.
Yeah, and like for my parents making, I was just gonna say when my parents were making a majority of what they paid towards the house that they own is interest. It was all interest.
Yeah, like, but now they're probably down to like 2.75. That's what I.
Because they were able to refinance over and over again.
They're trying to make sure that they keep these houses. That's what I'm saying. It's about building industry, making people, bringing these talented people into this place and making them comfortable to live and stay here.
Yeah, 1,000%.
Yeah.
So that's like you're not going to be able to fight against that. Like the entire economy of the Bay Area is dependent upon that. Like,
yeah, and
they're enabling this.
Yeah, so then that's where like where I think the shipping container homes are a pretty good idea. Well, whereas in the Bay Area, it might not really work because, I mean, you're paying for the land, not the like actual home. It could work in like areas where just kind of more open areas, maybe not in California, but in other states where you can just buy a plot of land and you can essentially build your home for pretty cheap. Like I saw some people build a pretty nice house, like with materials and labor, it was like $150,000, and they got like 3 or 4 shipping containers and like were able to really assemble a nice home out of it. Like, I was pretty impressed. But so that's just a solution. Could be a potential solution for some people that want to own homes, but just can't afford the crazy down payments that come with already pre-built homes.
Right. And I think people should invest in those like those tiny house shipping,
Mm-hmm.
whatever, like unique style house, smaller houses, because that could be flipped as a rental property. Because what's really important is that people want to be here. Is
Mm-hmm.
like there's just things that they want to do, people that they want to interact with that are here. And so there's people still that are going to be able to come from other places just to be here, even for a specific period of time, even if it's not forever. So
Mm-hmm.
I think I personally wouldn't want to live in that type of environment for a long period of time. But if you
Mm-hmm.
purchase something like that, you can offer that, as a rental property to someone else that is
Yeah, and, and,
comfortable
and like
doing
that's
that.
what, like on the show I'm watching, that's what most people do. It's like a rental property, or they're just
Yeah.
building a vacation home essentially.
Right.
But
Right.
like I'm thinking that eventually, I mean, if as people, these interior designers are crazy, like as they get better and better at it, it just could be a viable solution to owning a home. If like I said, yeah, like you're right, you might get tired of living in one, but try watching the show and see what you think. um but
What's it
yeah.
called again? Can you plug it one more time?
I think it's just called Shipping Container Homes.
Okay.
It's on Hulu. Or yeah, if you have, it's like it's a HD TV show now. So, but I thought it was
Oh,
interesting.
cool.
Yeah.
No, that's cool, Mike. That's cool. I definitely think those are an important topic to talk about, just the housing market and how to prepare for it if you're trying to buy a home.
Yeah.
Yeah, man. But if we're done talking about that, I'll go on to my topic. Did you guys see the recent email leak from Anthony Fauci?
Email
No.
me. No.
Man, so his
No.
emails leaked, and I've been
Okay.
getting some disinformation about it. I haven't. It's 3,000 emails, 3,200 emails. So I'm not gonna go through all of them. And some people who've claimed to go through all of them have like posted some on like Instagram and Twitter. And I've seen some interesting things, but I'm not gonna really speak on those because they're not from a verified news source, meaning if someone calls them out on BS, it doesn't hurt their credibility in any way. You know what I mean?
Mhm.
The,
Yeah.
them posting that, they put nothing at stake from posting that. So I'm not gonna repeat any of those things, but they're
Yeah. Now
interesting.
I just want to know: is it about the
I mean, yeah,
vaccine?
Yeah.
it's about the
Like,
vaccine.
Yeah.
It's about the origins of the vaccine. Um, but that's
It's not.
already that's already publicly been put into question.
Yeah.
mhm.
I
So,
mean, it sounds like a bunch of bullshit to me.
That's
But
the show, though.
but
I mean, like
look,
it's pretty easy to spoof some emails.
very easy to spoof emails, right? So the
Yeah.
only emails that I've seen that are verified are ones talking about how like masks aren't necessarily required for people um, to like not transmit the virus because it's not required if you don't have if you're not sick,
Mm-hmm.
basically. So he in an email said that masks aren't required if you're not sick. It's really just to stop people from spreading it if you are sick yourself. But
Mm-hmm.
if you're not sick, then you shouldn't necessarily have to wear a mask. But publicly, was saying something totally different for the longest. Up
Well,
Well,
I
until
think
what?
I would say to that, like, how do people know if they're sick? Are they quick to know their symptoms? Once you do get COVID, there is a 7-day delay until your symptoms actually show, and you're still able to transmit within those first 7 days before you show symptoms.
the second thing is that if you are an asymptomatic carrier of COVID, you do not spread it. That's the second thing that was brought up in these emails. That if you are currently an asymptomatic carrier of COVID, you are not the one that's going to be able to transmit it to someone else.
I mean, I did hear like that rumor floating around, but like it's still hard to actually determine if it's true, because like this thing spread like wildfire. So I'm sure if people were actually sick, like what's their reasoning for going out and still interacting with people other than just to be an asshole and spread a disease? Maybe some people
That's-
are like that. You know what I'm saying?
all right, let's not cap, like, all of us did not go out for the past year at some point.
But
Like,
no. That's not what I'm saying. I'm saying like, why would somebody purposefully, like you're saying someone that's asymptomatic can't transmit the disease, right? That's what the email said?
Apparently that's what the email said, yes.
So you're saying that only, so like
people
who knew they were sick went out on purpose to get other, like, knowing that there's a pandemic, like enough of those people went out to spread it as quick as it spread.
I believe so.
I don't believe that's the case. And like I said, like just a couple of seconds ago, there are people that do not show, like, for symptomatic patients, they do not actually show symptoms in the first couple of days that they receive COVID. And that was documented by the CDC and by Fauci. And it was like, you show symptoms, I believe, like 4 to 7 days in. For symptomatic patients, after you have COVID, like the virus within you, it doesn't actually fully, like, become its full form, I guess, or become its most diseased state after you, like, have it in your system for a while.
Right, but the question, Solomon, is whether or not you're contagious, not whether or not you have the virus in your system. It's whether or not you're contagious.
Oh, okay. So like,
the thing, I was gonna just say one more thing. The thing is, being asymptomatic, does that mean like they were asymptomatic for their entire COVID experience, or what? Like, or is a patient that was asymptomatic became symptomatic with signs of COVID, and in that symptomatic stage is the only period of time that person is able to transmit disease? Is that what like the statement is saying?
The statement is saying, I cannot address that in any form of absolutes, but the statement said that if you're asymptomatic, you cannot transmit COVID.
Okay.
Well, okay. So then I can give, so full disclosure to all the viewers, I think I already told you guys, I had COVID last year. And like, I can trace back to where it came from. And I just can't imagine that the people that I was with that day would have purposefully came knowing, and to get all of us sick, knowing that they were sick, you know? So that, like, the only like logic I can put in my head is that like they weren't aware that they had COVID. So they were asymptomatic, but they still came and gave it to everybody that was together that day.
Mm-hmm.
So like, that's why like I call kind of bullshit on asymptomatic people can't spread the disease.
Because you felt that they weren't sick.
Yeah, the thing is, the person in the moment does not necessarily know if they're asymptomatic or symptomatic. It's hard, like, even though you're showing.
That's crazy to say. Because like, how do you not know that you have a symptom? You're saying asymptomatic is I don't have a symptom. A symptom is something that you can acknowledge.
Okay, Brandon.
You can self-acknowledge.
Let me just please finish my point. And I'm saying that you can have mild symptoms and you can have severe symptoms. If someone has if you have a runny nose,
but that's not asymptomatic.
What I'm saying, like, bro, what I'm saying is, if someone has frequent allergies in spring, and they have a runny nose, there is individual, like, bias in terms of what they believe. Every individual person has, like, an idea of what it means to be sick and not sick. Nobody is actually medical experts, like, just people walking around, like, in terms of their own symptoms. So they would actually have to go to a doctor. And in terms of the general population, how many, like, for you specifically, if you, like, had a runny nose, if you had, like, a sniff, do you go to the doctor immediately?
No, but if there's COVID going around, I would wear a mask around people. It's whether or not we have to wear the mask. If I've had
It's not
any
one of-
type of sickness, if there's any type of sickness, if I'm feeling any type of way during COVID,
I think,
then I'm going to
yeah,
wear a mask while I'm around people. But if I feel any type of way and I don't wear a mask around people, then that's on me.
yeah, like
But
I
why-
think that, like, I get what you're saying, Solomon, that, like, yeah, under normal circumstances, like, I'm not going to care that my nose is runny or my throat is a little scratchy, but
But it's COVID.
like we being in the know that we are in a pandemic, I feel like people should take even those tiniest, like, there should be a little bit more awareness to take those things a little seriously.
But there's a
should be,
lot of
but
people
it's
who don't.
Yeah, people are not aware of their own symptoms, like in their own bodies. Like they just kind of brush it off, and I like they do.
So call
And
out
it's-
the assholes. That's all you got to do. It's like just call out the assholes.
It's not. It's
Yeah.
there's.
It's very.
like
It's
half the
very
But see, you
simple.
can't tell who you got it from. Like, it's like
Yeah,
you can trace it back to a certain point, but like I can't pinpoint exactly who at this particular gathering gave me passed
And
it on
charge
to
it to
me.
the game, but just know that it was
Yeah.
one of them, and they had some
Yeah.
sort of symptom. And they had some sort of symptom. According to Fauci, they had some sort of symptom that they did not
Disclose.
disclose, or address to everyone that was around them. According to Fauci, and they didn't take the precautions necessary. But me
Oh.
personally, I'm not. If I even have allergies, I'm gonna wear a mask around people.
Okay, so then that just kind of like, so maybe the government knowing this fact, like people aren't like so some people are going to ignore that they may have a symptom. So that's why they just said everybody should wear a mask. So that way, like there's
Right.
it's not up for the interpretation that, oh, is this COVID? It's probably not COVID, so I'm just going to throw my mask away. Like
It was extremely condescending from the government and from everyone in charge who's mandating and supporting these types of like rules and regulations. It's extremely condescending. It's like, you're not smart enough to know whether or not you're sick, so we're just gonna put this blanket over everyone.
It's not.
And it really doesn't.
but I mean, but that's
It's really-
facts
and it
though.
really
Like
and it really just depends on who you're with.
Standpoint. It's coming from
Right.
a safety standpoint. It's coming from regulation. It's saying like this is like you have to consider like the population in terms of their education level. Their like you cannot determine each and everyone's individual education record. You should play it safe. You should always play it safe when it comes to a pandemic. Like world deaths. How many world deaths were there as a result of this? Like it was done because they understood the impact and how fast it was transmitting. I mean, there was obviously a time where they didn't know what was going on, so they actually just told everybody to stay inside. This is a lockdown because in China, I think like 10,000 people dropped in 2 weeks, and they did not know what was going on. And they knew based on how quickly it was spreading that it was something that had to be learned as quickly as possible, and they wanted to take the safest route possible. There could be some argument. There could be some argument in terms of once we had an understanding, a better understanding of what COVID was, to like readjust. But I believe it was basically meant to essentially have the safest course forward to mitigate the amount of lives. I think if going about it that way, like because they're medical officers, safety officers in terms of, and that work for the president. Their whole goal is to save as many people as they possibly can, and their focus is not necessarily towards human feelings per se. They're strictly medical. There's like politicians for policy, and there's doctors for medical items, and they are attempting to address it from a medical standpoint. And from a
why are they incentivizing people if they don't care about human emotion? Then why are they incentivizing people to get vaccines? If that's not a part of the process,
because that's also what's best for like
for safety, for the numbers
for safety.
Of lives lost. People are still losing their lives to COVID. Like last week, this week, there are lives being lost to COVID, and it is due to the fact that there is a spread. There is definite evidence for the first strain that was identified for SARS-CoV-2, that what's it called? That you will not be you will like 100% not be hospitalized or experience, not 100%, but it's really close to 100%. If you get the vaccine, You will not be hospitalized or be severely affected by it, or will not experience death. So people have, and from what I have heard, there's also a like reduced capacity in terms of spreading COVID, even if you do have it. There's like some very few cases where people with both shots of the vaccine have gotten like the variant. There's like the new variants that came out. There's like a UK variant, like a South African variant that have popped out. And so there's some possibilities that like you can still get that, but it's still very limited in number at the moment. But the real thing is that people are still dying due to COVID. It is still necessary to kind of incentivize people to get vaccinated, because the more people we have vaccinated, it will pretty much essentially slow down the deaths and hospitalizations as a result of COVID.
Agreed. Yeah, I mean, I just looked up the numbers right now. Total worldwide deaths is 3.68 million.
More,
So, I mean,
more people died this year than last year, COVID.
Yeah.
India. Yeah.
So I mean,
Because of India, right?
Yeah. Oh yeah, man. It's really just about like stopping the spread. Like I didn't care that I had to wear a mask. Well, it started to get annoying towards the end, but like I didn't care that I had to wear a mask during like the main part of the pandemic. Like if it meant I was doing my part to help reduce the spread of a deadly disease. So like if the government thought, like I think it was the best move to force everyone to wear masks. I mean, even though they had these mandates in place, half of the people didn't obey them, and that's the reason why COVID spread so much.
Right.
If we were all wearing masks and following the guidelines, like we wouldn't have hit the critical point that we hit during this pandemic. But like, you know, you have half of the country that felt differently, and so they decided we're not going to wear a mask no matter what, probably even if they were sick, and just like spread the shit out of it. But
that's what I'm saying. But we got to be able to call these people out rather than just put a blanket over everybody.
I mean, those people don't
and
care.
tell everyone to go to sleep.
They're Trump supporters. Like they don't care. They've been getting called out. Like
we got to be able to.
Matter.
We got to be. I know, but I'm just saying the root cause of the problem is holding these types of people accountable in some form or fashion. If we keep putting a blanket over it.
How would you say though? How would you say to like the thing is, for like, I want to use Mike's party as an example. Like theoretically, in your eyes, how would you be able to like go to like that event, like as an official, like a local official? How would you hold someone accountable?
You know, not like on terms of like retribution or anything like that. In like terms of like from like the state or from like the local government or from the police or anything like that. I'm not talking about that. I'm just talking about on a personal level. We need to be able, because
hold your family accountable. Hold your friends accountable.
Just hold your just within your little sphere of influence. Like I'm not asking you to change the world, no, but like just you as a person, hold the people around you accountable.
For sure. I get that.
Yeah, but I mean, if all the people around you all have the ideas that we don't want to wear masks, like how does that happen? Like when do they run into somebody that actually cares enough to tell them, hey, I'm going to hold you accountable and make you wear a mask? So you go down to
everything's based on choices. So if you're around people who don't want to wear a mask or who don't want to be safe or who would put you in a compromising position, why would you keep hanging out? Like, I'm not saying like don't hang out with your friends, Mike, but I'm just saying like, just like me personally, if I got COVID from somebody in that kind of situation, I'll kind of look at people kind of weird. I'll be like, you're like kind of sick and didn't really say nothing. You know what I mean?
That's what I'm saying. Nobody knew they were sick. Like everyone we all thought we were good. Like that's the thing. But like that's where you're saying now that somebody had to have had symptoms there.
According to Fauci and according to people that I know, like I didn't know like your whole situation with you getting COVID. The people that I know have gotten COVID, it's been from someone who knew that they were sick and didn't care and went out anyway.
Damn, that's fucked up.
Yeah, that really is.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So I mean, like, I don't. I'm not. I understand COVID is real, and like I said, if you feel any type of sickness, you should always protect yourself and others. Um, but my biggest thing that was really interesting to me is the origin of the virus and how that could have possibly come from gain of function research. Um, that is a little concerning to me
Yeah,
for a lot of reasons. So like
that was an official
that
Fauci email, or is that like one of the conspiracy
it was
emails?
it was one of the little conspiracy emails. It was like,
Okay. Okay.
so here's how he made the virus. Like,
You gotta use it. Two parts bacon,
so
two parts
I was
baking
like,
soda,
okay. I was like,
one
that's
part
too
bad
much.
feces, and
I was
then
like,
two
that's
parts
too
water.
much.
Mix it up.
Right. But when he was grilled on a Senate panel recently, Fauci said he couldn't like necessarily confirm whether or not the virus was man-made or not, and that the United States should do more research into China or do more investigating into China as to whether or not the virus might have leaked from their lab in Wuhan. I'm like, investigate China. I'm like, what are you talking about? I'm like, what? We should a more thorough investigation of China's Wuhan lab. I was like, okay, all right, you're Black Ops. You can do it then. You know what I'm saying? Like what?
Yeah.
Yeah, like that's
What?
like an extreme complex political
What?
operation. Like that's gonna be tough.
Right? I'm like,
But
you're talking about espionage at that point. Like, okay, all right, James Bond, let's do it.
Yeah.
Let's do it.
yeah, I mean,
But,
but at some point it shouldn't have became like where it came from. It should have just became trying to prevent the spread, and that's what like we were getting at with just holding people accountable to wear masks. But like I said,
yeah,
at
I
some
think
point, like that sphere of influence, like it might not reach these people, is what I'm saying.
it's not going to reach everyone. It's not going to reach everyone. But when you're when you're compromising yourself and you're around people who you feel comfortable with, you got to just take like caution and care when you do that. You know what I'm saying? Just don't be so willy nilly. Because I mean, a lot of my friends that got COVID is because they were just out hanging out with their friends. That's how they got
Yeah, and
COVID.
like, and I'll admit, like, it was kind of careless of us, but like, I don't know, we all just kind of had a trust in each other that we were all quarantining. Like, we were all quarantining, and like, we were good, but like, yeah, it was a mistake, definitely. But I
Yeah,
mean,
I'm just
we
saying
all
the
made it
fact.
out okay. It's just, and
Yeah,
quarantined
yeah,
immediately after, like, as soon as I found out, like, I did not leave
right.
anywhere. Like,
Right. I'm not saying anybody's wrong because, like I said at first, like everybody's been out for some reason with their friends. It's just
mm,
that when something like that happens and
shit,
you
we kicked
survive it,
it. Like,
that's what I'm saying. When you survive it and something like, and you get through it, and you just gotta learn from it, move on. And then
yeah,
ain't no aspersions being cast on anybody here, anything like
yeah,
that.
No.
Just is what it is.
yep.
So
Um,
you want to leave it there to move on to the next topic?
yeah, I'll leave it there. We'll just
No.
yeah, get our little CDC warning at the bottom of the video. And move on.
Hilarious.
For official information about COVID, refer to
Right.
cdc.gov.
Right. Don't listen to this nigga.
That's exactly what it is. I see it on every story.
Right.
Yeah.
Don't listen to this nigga. Click here.
Hilarious. Good job. All right. So for my topic, I am going to bring up something a little bit historical. Yesterday was officially, I believe, the 100th anniversary of the massacre of Black Tulsa. And so
Yep.
basically, I kind of wanted to speak to like the events that unfolded there, how it basically wasn't a part of American history for the majority of the 20th century, and basically how pretty much Black America has changed in terms of the injustices that are put upon like Black people in this day and age. And so just to start, for those who don't know about the massacre of Black Tulsa, it was due to an event where I don't know the profession of the man, but there's like this elevator that's supposed to take you into White Tulsa or something of the fact. There was a white woman that called rape, and this man was going to be put on trial. I don't know any of the names, so I do apologize ahead of time. So if you guys have some context to fill in, please do. But this man was going to be put on trial. Members of the members, I'm not sure if it was the KKK or just people of White Tulsa, were intending on lynching this man. And basically, at the time, Black Tulsa was pretty much considered a little bit of a Wall Street of Black America. There was
Greenwood. It's Greenwood. Solomon. You said Black Tulsa, White Tulsa. No, but that's really, I mean, that's really what it was. It was like the black side of Tulsa.
There was black side of Tulsa and the white side of Tulsa. Yeah, right. Thank you for providing historical context, because I'm definitely not the most well versed.
No, that's cool, bro. We understand. It's good.
Yeah. And again, we're mostly bullshit. And so in this situation, Greenwood was considered one of the Black Wall Streets of America. Tulsa had a big oil industry, and so there was a lot of Black workers working for white owners and white managers. But the thing is, because Tulsa was segregated, Black people actually brought money from Tulsa into Greenwood, where people were, buying, within the Black community. And it built it up well in terms of, having a strong middle class. And so there was some descent from White Tulsa in a sense. But the main reason why I bring that up is that there were, all professions. And during the time where this man was held on trial for the alleged rape of a white woman, there was a white mob that was attempting to lynch this man. At the time, there was I'm not sure if it was a coalition, a little Minutemen, somewhat situation in Greenwood, but they actually came to the court to stop that from happening. There was a dispute, and it actually led to some people getting killed in that, which provided the justification to these white people in Tulsa to pretty much destroy an entire community. I don't want to gloss over what happened, but essentially there was police officers letting people sign up to become people of the law, for the day, so they can hand out judiciary actions, and essentially were given the okay to kill people on the spot. What occurred was essentially a war zone on innocent civilians, and the burning down of the entire block by block of Greenwood. So I don't even know the numbers in terms of deaths, in terms of the amount of people's lives changed forever. But for the most part, the main accounts that we have were children that were there at the time. But the biggest thing was post the massacre of Greenwood, there was not too much spoken about it, not in Tulsa, not by the people who survived, because there was real fear, because this was still 1921. There was fear that people would have been kind of prosecuted, or they would have had something worse happen to them if they were to speak up about their injustices. I think it was sometime in the 1970s where it was first initially recognized as a race riot at the time, so implicating that there was potentially both sides that were involved. But obviously, in today's knowledge that we know that this was essentially the attempt to wipe out an entire community based on I'm not exactly based on strictly hate. It's this villainy, hate, whatever you want to put it, straight from the devil. But the concerning part, and the part that I wanted to bring up, was essentially the stories that were pretty much missing from that as a result of the fear of those people at the time, and how it relates to some of the struggles that we go through today, and how we're able to kind of amplify our own voice via social media, via people in power, via basically any activist who attempts to speak the injustices that occur today and how it can make change. And so I kind of wanted to just reach back to you guys. What are your thoughts? How have we kind of grown as a country since? Have we made any true progress? I mean, the civil rights movement did happen in the 1960s, but in terms of alleviating injustices, have we actually gotten to a point where we can say, as a Black people, we are making forward progress as how to kind of establish our footing in saying, like, this is not okay, this is a crime against our people, and we are going to make a change as a result.
I was gonna say that the reason that people talk about it, the difference between why they weren't talking about it in the 20th century and why they're talking about it in the 21st century is because of the internet and the exposure to it. That one person can post something and change people's perception on the world. Like, so
yeah,
that's about it.
yeah,
Just keep
and
posting shit on the internet.
Yeah, pretty much. Like, and I do think we've made steps towards a more equal society since then. Like, I can't but it's definitely been very slow progress. Like, I can definitely say that I'm in a better position than what my parents were in. And I imagine that my future kids will also be in a better position than myself. So it really just have to take it generation by generation. And it's just going to take a long time, but I think, eventually we will get, that point is coming. It's just may not be in the near future.
Has society ever been equal, you guys? I want to ask you guys, has society, in your recollection, has it ever been fair, like an equal, fair playing field for everybody in human history?
No.
Has it always been tough for Black people throughout human history?
Has it been what?
Tough.
Has it always been like hard for Black people throughout human history? Has it always been hard, or have Black people been systematically oppressed throughout the world, throughout human history?
I'll say, but probably for the past 600 years.
Yeah, I mean,
yeah, 600 years for sure. Past 1,000. No, yeah, not even 1,000. Right, 600. You're right, Stalin. Yeah, 600 years. But before that, we was chilling, right?
We were.
Yeah, but that's what I'm saying. So compare 600 years ago to today, and like that's like a lot of like obviously like it was fucking shitty to be put in the position that we've been put in, but comparing like that time to today, are we in a better position than those people? And I would say yes.
The man, like,
wait, are you saying to those
kings and queens?
No, I'm talking about. So I'm talking about back to when the oppression first began. Like,
are we a better position?
Yeah, that's what I'm saying.
Mike?
Yes, that's what I'm saying.
Mike.
Like, that's what I'm saying. Like the process is slow, but we're steadily getting there. Is what I was trying to make the point of.
Okay, the point I was trying to make is let's go before then, when we weren't slaves, and
shit was probably popping. Yeah.
Right. Instead of saying probably popping, let's figure out how exactly it was popping, and sort of analogous, like have like sort of like an analogous situation where we can compare apples to apples between our time now and previous times in history, where it's maybe we don't have the same types of tools and different types of like the methodology might be different on how we do things. However, the structure of our societies, our environments, the rules in which we live by, how we interact with people, how we worship, a higher power, or worship, more importantly, ourselves. I think if we study those things, that's how we get into our power. Because the number one thing that I be reading in books is that they took away our ability to read. Like, like we couldn't
Yeah.
even read if we're like, I mean, in this country at least, we couldn't even read until like slavery was abolished. Like most people weren't even allowing people to read, and then the only time they would allow them to read was in order to read an abridged version of the Bible, which recommended slavery to African people. So it was really just an indoctrination tactic to get us to read. However, it sort of backfired on them in the long run by trying to indoctrinate us into a certain religious ideology. But if you really study what happened before then, or even what happened, or even how people got over in the meantime, you know what I'm saying? Just figuring out those stories. Like, I'm reading this book right now called In Hope of Liberty.
Mm-hmm.
And it's about culture, community, and protests among Northern free Blacks between 1700 and 1860. And it's basically all the real Jangos of the world. You know what I mean?
There's people who are really doing
like real shit, like doing real shit back in the day. And if we learn about them and learn how they did it and learn what their psychology was and sort of try to apply that to today, we can sort of have a different mindset going into the future. The future wouldn't look so bleak or uncertain. We would have a clear plan of what to do, and sort of in a sort of structural sense how to do it.
So you're saying, I mean, I get that, but like to me, like I kind of have a sense of what I want to do. Like, but you're just saying as a collective.
As a collective, right? Because we're all individuals, right? And we can all map through this system our own specific ways. But if we're specifically talking about doing, like, because we're talking about something that happened in Tulsa, Oklahoma, that didn't really affect my family or your family directly, right? But we're sympathetic with it, and we're trying to fix it because we're trying to help the collective as a whole, because we understand that helping the collective helps us, helps the world, helps just people in general. So it's just like, why aren't we understanding how we as a collective, how us as melanated people as a collective coincided and gathered together in the past throughout the world, in order to not be in this position of oppression? How did they maintain, ancient Egypt or Kemet, which is the longest running society in human history? How do they maintain that? How do they maintain cultural continuity over at least 4,000 years? How? Let's figure that out, and let's superimpose it. I mean, do you see the hieroglyphs behind me? Like, I studied this shit. You know what I'm saying? But it's like.
But so then what have you? So then what were they doing then? Like to stay together, like, because. Like I feel like a lot of like the problem is a lot of that history, maybe it's not, but like a lot of it is lost. And it's
not lost, is that they're not incentivized to look for it. What's your incentive to look for it? And like you're saying, if you personally, Mike, already know exactly what you want to do and where you want to go, and it's really just this extra thing of you wanting to help everyone else out, then what's your true incentive to go look for this information? If it's not your number one priority to help everyone, if that's not your number one priority to help everyone else out, then why would you look for this information if you already know exactly what you want to do and where you want to go?
Well, but like I also have an idea of what I think we should do, but like it doesn't mean I'm right in that. So like I guess like you're saying I should go back and read these ancient texts.
And not just ancient texts, but there's just like there's a lot of historians, Black historians within the 20th century, when we were allowed to publish works, and we figured out ways to publish works, even though we were denied a bunch of opportunities to get shit published. There are people who have written things that are now being mass produced and mass printed because people are getting exposure to them from the internet. So there's books like Stolen Legacy by George G.M. James. There's books like How Europe Underdeveloped Africa from Walter Rodney. They Came Before Columbus by Dr. John Henrik Clarke. So there's definitely scholars, African scholars who have done the work for you, and the books are there. It's just whether or not you want to know the information or value the information. You know, it's like if that's not one of your priorities to try to get that type of shit done, then I understand if you're not going to look for this type of information. I mean, everything else is being given to you in order to solve your pursuit of what you deem as happiness. You know, the blueprint has been laid out for you. So, you know, as long as you're considered a citizen, you know, it's like.
All right, but what I'm saying is, so
something out.
So, I know. But okay, so then what I'm saying is then, like, so you're saying, so everybody needs to go and read these things about a collective. Why don't you just tell us some of the things that are in these texts that they were like share some of the insight that you're getting from reading these books that you think will lead us back to prosperity.
Or just a preview that'll get
because so it's one thing like if I go like it's one thing if I go and just read these books that you're recommending, but then to be able to become a leader and effectively take these teachings in the book, like I don't think I'm cut out for that. So like that's what it takes. It takes somebody who.
I would say you don't have to do that on a large scale. You just have to have that intent and affect who you can affect as an individual, and don't really have don't be afraid of this like burden of trying to save the world. No, Mike, you're not gonna save the world.
No, I know.
Like, but you can try, motherfucker. Damn, like what the fuck? Like you can do the best that you can. Like one thing I would say of how to live better is I study ancient Egypt because a lot of we live in a society that's modeled after ancient Egypt. The 42 negative confessions are the laws of Ma'at. Those are something that people can kind of trace to the 10 Commandments. It might have been copied, or the information might have been changed or sort of similar. But look at those and how to live every single day. They had to recite those 5 times a day. It's just part of their prayer, their prayer ritual. But it's just how to live your life on a day-to-day basis. And it's not 10 laws, it's 42. It's like a lot of things that you got to really consider when you're how you relate to people. So just simple things like that. It's really just things that you as an individual can control. Like I'm not asking people to do too much, but just look at like laws like that. Look at systems like how they had systems in ancient Egypt. Like there's a lot of interesting things about slavery that went on in ancient Egypt, but for sure the Great Pyramids weren't built by slaves. So how did they figure that out? That's for sure.
Aliens.
I don't know. We're not going there. I'm not going there. But we're doing aliens for right now until that report comes out. Until that report comes out, then I'm done talking about it. But yeah, I'm just saying, like they were able to get great things done without this capitalist system where we have to exploit one another.
Mm-hmm. Okay, I like that. I think that's good. That's good food for thought. I would definitely. I'll check some. I'll actually probably tap in with you. Check some of these books out. Maybe you could write some books in the description to recommend to the viewers.
Yeah, I'll put all the books that I've read recently in the description.
That'd be great. The show. That was a great discussion. I'm very glad that it kind of went that way. I think that was pretty much like the answer I'm looking for. I knew you were a lot more tapped into it than me and Mike were, Brandon. So I'm very, very grateful for your insight when it comes to this.
Yeah, man. It's just I know, no problem. It's like don't get too overwhelmed by this information. It like I said with everything, it just is what it is. But if you want to find the information, Don't feel like it's not there. Don't feel like it's hidden. You know, I'll never be able to figure out where I came from or what great things Black people did in the past, because you know white people have hid it and they don't want me to find it anyway.
So then after, you know, you get a good collective of people that understand, that have went back, they've done their research, they understand how these ancient civilizations portrayed themselves, operated. What's the next step after that to actually achieving it?
You move in silence like a lasagna. Like a G. You move in silence like lasagna. Like the G's in lasagna. That's what you do. You don't talk about it after that. I'm just saying, because I mean, maybe you can in this 21st century, but when they was out in the open, like I'm just saying, like they knew this shit in Tulsa 100 years ago. This shit that we're talking about right now, they knew this shit in Tulsa, and they burned down the whole neighborhood for it.
Yeah, I mean, but I mean, creating something like Tulsa again is very possible in like right now.
It's possible.
And it wouldn't, and like it wouldn't, the reaction of Tulsa, it wouldn't be that like level of rebuttal to it, you know. It like,
right.
you know, there might be some
Go ahead, Mike.
I was gonna say, like, you know, there could be some vandalism that happens, but like I don't think it'll be to the level of an entire massacre like Tulsa if we were to build something like that again.
Let's see. Because yeah, we are very ingratiated into the government, into politics, local, state, national, which we weren't before. But let's see what happens, because the big thing about what happened in Tulsa is that the city acknowledges, and I believe it's like the local militia or something attached to like the Air Force or the Army, because the citizens were actually bombed during that attack from airplanes, from army airplanes. So they were like the mob was in cahoots with the city itself, and the city acknowledges that. And they said, yeah, we should give reparations. We should. You're right. We should.
Man.
But we're gonna give you this park, and we're gonna do this parade, and yeah, we're gonna give out these scholarships.
This little plaque in the middle of the city.
Yeah, so people can go to our school. Yeah, we're gonna give these yeah, right, all that. We're gonna give you all these symbolic victories, you know, empty calories, and you know, you're just gonna deal with that. But we should give you reparations. You're right about that. And they've acknowledged all of that. So that's what I'm saying. Let's see what happens once, because there are Black Wall Streets growing right now as we speak across the entire country. Across the entire country, there are Black people getting together, making shit happen, and within their respective communities. But once they really blow up, let's see what happens. But I don't know. I mean, it's the 21st century. We can move all this commerce shit to they can't. If all this commerce shit is on the internet, they can't burn down.
Yeah, how you gonna vandalize a Shopify store?
Right. I mean, you could be like China though. You could be like China and get rid of websites.
But then America can get away with that. That goes against capitalism. Capitalism is the main blood of America.
Right. They wouldn't get rid of that on a global. They wouldn't get away with that on a global scale. Now that the United Nations exists, that's really the thing. Now the United Nations exists, America can't get away with all that bullshit like it was. That's the real shit, because I learned something on Clubhouse recently. America got a lot of pressure to pass the civil rights bill because they're being hella racist to like the Ghanaian president who had visited.
Damn. So you did learn something useful from Clubhouse.
Yeah, I did learn that. They were seeing a lot of pressure because there was a Ghanaian president at the time that was disrespected by our government, and the United Nations put pressure on them to get shit done.
Wow, that's crazy.
Mhm.
Man.
Mhm.
All right. Well, I think maybe we should just leave it there for now. We can kind of pick up some other variations of this conversation, maybe in another couple episodes. Who knows? But I think we did receive some valuable information from this talk. So yeah.
Yeah. I'll definitely put those books in the description. And also, yeah, if you guys have because you guys have great information as well, just about I'm a historian, so I like to talk about shit that went on in the past. But you guys have very up to date information about things that are going on currently. So if you have any links, send them to me, and I'll put them in the description so we can get that out to our viewers.
Yeah,
for sure. Good. It's good.
Cool. Well, all right then. Well, that was a good episode.
Yeah.
We'll see y'all next week, and probably talk about the playoffs again. See if
Yes,
LeBron's
sir.
still in it.
man.
Let's see
we'll
if
see.
LeBron is still in the playoffs the next time we see. I'm excited.
Who's more fragile, CP3 or AD? It's like,
I think AD.
AD 1000%,
CP3 still playing.
He's still playing.
AD is coming back though this next game, but you got to understand, AD is going against monsters. CP3 is going against normal people for the most part.
Yeah, that's how. So we'll see what happens. I'm excited though.
Yeah. All right, then, y'all.
All right.
Peace.
Catch y'all later. Peace.
Have a good one, y'all.